As hard as it may have been, a lot of people were worried about the animation and directive side of things for RWBY with Monty no longer at the helm. Without its leading animator and Monty unable to direct his pet project, there was gonna be some notable differences, especially in the fights early on where the pace and flow of some of the animations was slower than before. The volume did have some scenes that Monty worked on that, while short, was his notable quality, and even then, the animation team worked around them expertly in my opinion, and in the end, they should be massively proud for what they accomplished. There were still some technical issues, some inconsistencies, and one or two models felt a bit static at times, and some of the designs for the background populace can be a little bit striking, causing the immersion to buckle. But for a volume that was largely packing action scenes aplenty, it's quite amazing the quality given in these bouts. A lot of said quality in RWBY's action scenes isn't just the flashy style or the insane moves that's been pulled off, but the character that's actually put into the motions. One person's style can be vastly different to another to suit their weapon, experience, or their fighter's personality, and that factor was thankfully still present in this volume. Characters still fight fit into who they are, and the solid storytelling still flows as they brawl. A big example of this was between Crow and Winter, two fighters with a ton of experience and natural skill, in a tussle that surpassed a lot of fights seen previously from the less experienced younger cast. You can see from the pace, the sharp directing, and the attitudes behind each blow that these two are highly skilled fighters and very confident in their ability, even with heavy blows that can wreck their surroundings. It showed off just what a full-fledged huntsman could be, all while we see a developing narrative of Winter trying to put Crow in his place. Other fights continue this wonderful mix of storytelling and character in the combat, so I'm glad to see that this idea wasn't lost. There's also some very lovely battle effects, especially with the four maiden powers, that follow on from last volume fitting nicely into the motions, and overall, I'd say there was enough variety in how the battles were shaped to have them stand well enough on their own 2 feet. Not bad given again the volume's massive fight count. Of course, the animation in fights is one thing, but if it was lacking in the casual scenes, that's a problem in and of itself, and yet I never saw that. It's in these scenes where a lot of the strength in the lighting and visual designs come into play. The growth in merging the motions to the characters to the lighting continued from last volume, highlighted very early on in the very first scene with RWBY at Summer's grave. More so than ever do I truly feel like these characters are in their setting, and this became a massive element when things got wild in the latter half of the volume. The lighting was key, and yet wonderfully implemented for some vital scenes, aiding in the atmosphere that it's trying to deliver, like the shadowy muggy greyness that blanketed the fight between Cinder's lot and Amber, a fight that we knew wouldn't end well for the Four Maiden. That muted colouring and lighting helps sell the dire nature of her struggle, but also the chilling power on display too, so major props there. Another big example was with the scenes with Ozpin, Pyrrha, and the other teachers. Note the warm glow of dusk in the room at the very early start. That comforting shade feels mighty absent later on in the vault, where it's barely lit and covered in shadows. That uncomfortable dim light boosted the area housing the adult secrets, making things all the more nerve-wracking. Lighting feels expertly anchored now into the animations, on top of showcasing a lot of the amazing quality put into the designs of the set pieces and characters. With the belief that we'll likely see far more new environments than ever before next volume, the fact that we saw some wonderfully diverse designs for areas like the Beacon Grounds and even snippets of areas outside the kingdoms helps me feel confident the new areas we'll see will be very pleasing on the eyes. The mouth movements are also another vastly improving area of the animations, bar a few exceptions like with Sun's emphasized teeth over in his battle. A lot more of the lip flaps fit the vocals smoother than ever before, and much to my pleasure, the emotions presented on the faces were some of the best in the series, which is handy given the highs and lows of the volume's story that it took its cast on. More tears than ever before, the odd blush here and there, and definitely a lot of sadness and anger. we're seeing more expressions on the characters, and it's comforting to see that the animation can help produce the right expressions needed. I also got to give massive praise to Carrie Shawcross, who took up the reins as the lead director for this volume after being co-director alongside Monty in the previous volumes. Quite the task, but the man has done wonderful work piloting how visually pleasing everything was. The direction and the cinematography in this volume was some of the best in the series, using more creative angles and camera movements that really shone bright in the social moments. Even small moments like having Pierre's face over Amber's in the vault, or just one person's crying summing up the terror here, did wonders for selling the emotions carried, and I really like the use of camera shaking effects for some impacts, deflected bullets, and more in the fights. Overall, the visual approach for Volume 3 should be praised, especially with the challenges that the team faced. No doubt they felt even more driven than before to make this volume look amazing with Monty's passing. It will definitely be interesting how Volume 4 goes with seemingly no Monty animation to go on, and also the departure of Monty's partner and fellow lead animator Shane Newville. But with the likes of Dylan Gu coming in and the strengths shown here, I think the animation team deserves high praise, and I hope the visuals continue its amazing strides forward in the future. And speaking of amazing strides forward, the voice acting found in this volume might be the show's finest. This was going to be a big volume for many of the vocal talents, as the darker and more emotionally exciting events would lead to many having to give it their all to match the quality befitting the occasion, and I'm more than pleased with what we got. The Team RWBY actresses were brilliant, with major praise given to Lindsay and Barbara, who got to explore new ground with their roles, and did so wonderfully. Yang's quiet, broken, suffering tone in the patch scene was pitch perfect, and I'm with Miles that Lindsay's performance when Ruby was facing the Nevermore and holding Penny's sword was fantastic. She nailed that perfectly. Miles too was brilliant when called upon, and Neef also deserves high praise for the quality that he added despite the difficulty he had trying to take on such a role and in such a manner, and the rest of the voice cast should all pat themselves on the back. Of course, the outsourced talent was excellent as expected. The likes of Vic, Elizabeth, they were all brilliant and really cemented the new characters into the stories amazingly with their performances. And Yuri even did a top job having to take on what JJ did for Mercury before him. With Jessica as Cinder, while she had to work with still more limited emotions, this was her finest work as the venomous ill-intended vixen, and I hope with the character's freedom now, this will allow the role and the actress to excel even more. Volume 4 will be a bigger test for the characters now, as more characters will be engaging in newer experiences in this brutal scenario that they found themselves in. And if the quality in this volume says anything, I'm inclined to think that we'll see even more fantastic performances as the series move on. Soundtrack wise, it's utterly fantastic. Moving on. No, I would be very unfair to just blanket it like that. The soundtrack is exactly as I said, but even for someone like me who's not the most musically insightful, it's quite exceptional and deserves a better look. Now, the music has always been a department that's highly praised ever since the initial trailers, but to say for me that Volume 3 music might be the best work that's done in the series shouldn't be considered just because it's quality for the other volumes as well. Keep in mind that most of the music team did every track, be it the opening theme, action themes, or background tunes, while working on Rooster Teeth's other project, Laser Team, as well as some other projects of course in the process. They likely had a far busier work palette than ever before, and yet managed to gift us all with a shipload of musical gold. The opening theme, When It Falls, was the right hard-pumping tune to kick off each episode with a foreboding element peppered in that echoed a lot of what would be the volume's incoming content, and rivals Time to Say Goodbye from Volume 2 as my favourite starting track. It's My Turn was the right kind of intense, thrilling music to set the pace for the volume, while I'm the One could be my new favourite battle track, not just because it felt very epic even with how quick the sharp pace of it all was, but also how well it felt like a coffee track like Caffeine from Volume 2 flowed expertly into a track fitting the pair of Emerald and Mercury, intimidating and powerful. Neon Rainbow was an energetic, bombastic tune that helped back up Neon's personality and her barbed insults thrown at Yang, for added oomph to the pair's clash. And even the return of I May Fall, promoted from credit song to Velvet's battle track, was a very solid idea. Though two tracks that already made the top ranks of my favorite list is the pair of Divide and Cold from the closing credits. Having such a chilling rock band echoing Salem's reveal and intentions was a masterstroke to really cement the turn that the series is taking. And the soft, soulful track of Cold will be an excellent summary of just how emotional this whole volume was, as well as being a fitting tribute to Monty. But even beyond the vocal-based tracks, the backing tracks was some of the best I've seen in any show that I've watched. It's amazing how well Jeff, Steve, Alex, and all the others on the music team continue to bring new flavors to familiar character tracks and leitmotifs to suit the mood. Especially so in the later half, where expert remixes of Yang's I Burn during the Mercury fight and Blake's From Shadows when fighting against Adam combined to make some of the best tunes ever in this series. Combine that with the variety of genres and themes, and it's something special. We had an exciting pirate shanty battle accompaniment that felt ripped right out of Pirates of the Caribbean, and the hard rock and choir for the Amber fight was utterly gorgeous, especially with the musical timing with the animation. The dread and panic-filled choir track that ended Chapter 9 was something out of this world, which reminded me of a piece from Batman Mask of the Phantasm, and was perfect for the shit-hitting-the-fan levels of insanity going on. And the piece for Pyrrha's final stand with Cinder was beautifully grand and powerful, with a level of tension behind it that was right at home for the battle at hand. Can't deny the quality is limited to faster and action-based tunes though, as some of these slower pieces was just as phenomenal, with major praise for the pieces playing during John's discussion with Pyrrha and during the final moments of Chapter 11. Both did their job right in adding extra oomph to the emotional roller coasters that the scenes provided, and the latter piece did this especially well, as it supported the cliffhanger that the episode left on. Said it before, but I cannot wait to get my hands on this soundtrack. Again, for work of this quality, while no doubt being busy on other projects, is something to marvel at, and I can't say enough how much I respect and applaud the music team for what they achieved. In the end, both in the visual and audio departments, it's some of the finest work I've seen in the show. Massive steps has been taken as RWBY continues to grow from its early days. With the presentation being an area that many might have been concerned about, and the new elements leading into big tests for many of the voice cast, it's a true credit to the talent on hand that this has become a volume to look back on fondly for all present in these teams. And that's all the areas I wanted to look at, folks. So, in the end, what's my overall feeling? Well, if I give each section a rank, I'd give them all these results. Story-wise, it's the best a volume has contained, adding in elements uncommon to the show wonderfully with very little drawbacks, and providing the right build on the villain's actions and growth for some of its cast. Story gets a firm 5-star grade. The characters continue to grow and reach new elements that give them a lot of exciting possible outcomes. Some numbers are still sitting on the side wondering when they're going to be given some time in the sun, but for a bumper of new additions and the progress, it's deserved a solid set of 4 stars. Animation, again a little bumpy at first with understandable reasonings and challenges, but the animation team took the reins well and pushed out a beautifully designed volume worthy of 4 stars for me. Worthy of 4.5 stars for me. Voice acting, the best so far in the volume. The new experiences tested certain voices and ended up with a top quality performance fitting to the occasion. The numbers new and old stepped up to the plate, matching the quality usually found in some of the more professional members' line of work, and makes me excited for how they handled the newer elements coming ahead. 4.5 stars. And finally, music. Incredible given the busy schedule, and worked in tandem with the visuals beautifully. It ended up merging into some of the best visual imagery and audio gold the series has done over its run, and its many unique themes and genres were expertly crafted. masterful work deserving again 5 stars. So, the big question. How does Volume 3 compare to the previous pair of volumes? If it's not too obvious, I'm finding little to sway from me calling Volume 3, the closing portion of the show's prologue, the best RWBY volume so far. It's overall one of the most thrilling, enjoyable, and engaging series of a show I've seen in recent years, to where even the few negatives never felt harmful to the overall product. It feels like this was a project of the entire RWBY crew using the unfortunate circumstances leading into the volume to push them into making something that Monty would have been proud of. His energy still burns bright in the passion from each member of the RWBY staff, and I hope they came out of this massive volume feeling like they did a job well done, gifting all of us with a volume that sets up its future on very solid ground, and letting us feel rewarded for the highs and lows to come, to this point feeling like this show can move forward and get even better. And that is the end of my review for RWBY Volume 3. I can now close this book on this entire chapter of the show and look ahead to what's next for me and it. Thank you though to every single one of you who has watched any of my reviews for this volume, and I hope you enjoyed my ramblings. This is something I'm feeling mighty happy now being a part of, and even if I may still feel amateurish as a reviewer, regardless, thank you so much, and I hope you continue to watch and enjoy what I have in store. It's going to be more RWBY related content, more discussions, more reactions, and of course I will put my reviewer cap on once more when Volume 4 rolls around later in the year. But for now, if you have anything to say on this volume, this review, things you agree or disagree with me on, or anything else on your mind, be sure to share them in the comments down below, or hit me up on my Twitter at ThatKaitoDan, where I keep updating on projects in the work, RWBY information, and more. Until next time though, have a good day or good night, and peace out.